now you know why we always have her back. Here's someone else that we also love having back every year. Can't imagine doing the Values Voter Summit without these ladies. She is the founder of Live Action, which specializes in investigative journalism, media, and youth education to expose abuses in the abortion industry and advocate for human rights of the unborn. In other words, she does the job that the media refuses to do. Live Action also hosts hosts the leading social media presence for the pro-life movement, reaching over 1 million people a week, as well as the leading national pro-life student magazine, The Advocate, and one of the leading pro-life news sites, liveactionnews.org. She's been named to Red Alert's 30 Under 30 and the National Journal, for the National Journal, the 25 most influential Washington women under the age of 35. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome back a true warrior for the unborn, Lila Rose.
Thank you. It's great to be here this morning with all of you. How's everyone doing? Having a great morning? I was just in yesterday from Massachusetts, and no, I don't live there, but it has a street cred, on the liberal side as being the most liberal state in America. But I was actually there speaking at a pro-life event, and it was sold out, over 500 people. And my dad is actually from California, which may be the most dysfunctional state in America. So between my mom, who's from Boston, the most liberal state, and my dad from California, they had 8 kids. And you'd think they'd have Nancy Pelosi's or, Harry Reid's, but many of us are pro-life activists. I'm a pro-life activist. So you can be anywhere in this country. You can be from any state, any place. But there's a fire burning in this nation. The fire is burning here. The fire is burning all over the nation because people see what's happening. They're upset. They want to do something. They want to get involved, and that involvement is this movement that's growing. The pro-life movement is only growing. At the event in Massachusetts, they were awarding some folks, some elderly folks actually. Had been involved in the movement for decades, really. And one of the gentlemen who was receiving an award for the work he did in one of the communities in Massachusetts, he couldn't even make it to the event because he was homebound, because he was suffering as he got older. And many of you in the audience here have been doing work for the culture of life, for this most important human rights issue of our day. You've been doing this work for decades, really, and you know who you are. You're out there, and I just want to thank you because my generation, I am standing on your shoulders as we stand up for the right to life of all people. Thank you for the work you're doing. You deserve an applause. And keep it up. You forged the path, and my generation, we're the most pro-life generation yet, my demographic, Generation X, millennials. Despite the issues we may have, we are pro-life. We are increasingly pro-life, and we want to stand up for life. And the more darkness that there is, and we're in the shutdown, we have, the troubles in the Middle East, we have economic issues, we have Obamacare looming over our heads, forcing us to pay for abortion drugs. As all these things loom in this darkness, how much more does even one light shine? And that's our message. Our light is going to shine even more in this dark time, and we will not be silenced by the silence of the media, by the pressure of politics in D.C. We will not be silenced, and we're going to speak out even more because we have truth on our side and we have God on our side. Leaving the airport yesterday, I saw a familiar face, and I actually saw the president of Planned Parenthood, Cecile Richards. She was right behind me in the taxi line. I was getting into my taxi, and I know Planned Parenthood likes to keep an eye on me, but I didn't think they would send her. And I thought, well, maybe she's coming to the Values Voter Summit, but before I had a chance to ask her to share the cab, she jumped into hers. So, Cecile, if you're out there, I'm glad you're here, and you need to hear this message too. Because this is a message that is above. There's a lot of other messages being shared which are important, a lot of other important issues. But we have to come back to the foundation, and we've talked about fundamental human rights, we've talked about the right to life. And let's remember the number that our team at Live Action thinks about every day, the number that happens every day. Over 3,000 children are killed every day legally in our country. Sometimes propped up by government dollars, taxpayer dollars, Planned Parenthood, but we lose 3,000 children every day. And that's why we have to prioritize this and understand that we can't have peace in this great country if we allow for the killing of the weakest members of our society. That's why we'll do whatever we can, whatever we need to do to win this fight. You know, you've heard a lot about the government shutdown. What is essential, what is non-essential? We were wrapping barricades around World War II memorials. We're shutting down Catholic masses and church services for our troops. And meanwhile, the essential service, which is practically a government service by this point, Planned Parenthood, is getting $1.5 million a day. But it's time to shut down the abortion industry, because that is the non-essential, that is the corrupt and unjust industry in this nation today. I want to share with you what we've been up to, the latest investigation. You've heard about Kermit Gosnell, the now notorious abortionist who was convicted of murder from Philadelphia for killing children who survived the abortion attempts. Now, he wasn't convicted for killing hundreds, thousands of children in the womb, but because sometimes the abortion-inducing drugs, the labor-inducing drugs that the women are given, the baby comes out before it's had a chance. The baby comes out before the abortionist has had a chance to kill it. If the abortionist kills that baby when it's born, 8 inches of birth canal, suddenly it's considered a life. And that child then is going to be protected or should be protected. So Kermit Gosnell was convicted for murder, but the media, they said he's alone. He's just a one-off. Planned Parenthood was distancing themselves from him. This is just one guy. Little did they know, 6 months prior to that trial, Live Action was in the field going across the country, documenting the abuses of the late-term abortion industry, sending in 3 brave first-time moms, all under the age of 30. They were 22 to 26 weeks pregnant. And they sat down with some of the most notorious late-term abortionists in the country and chatted with them about what the abortion procedure would be and what would happen if their child came out alive. What would happen in that abortion clinic, whether in Arizona, New York City, Washington, D.C., what would happen if that child came out alive? 2 miles from this room, 2 miles from the Omni Shoreham, this beautiful hotel, there's an abortionist named Cesare Santangelo operating in a beautiful medical condominium building, and he's killing children through all 9 months. We investigated Cesare Santangelo. Our investigator sat down, 23 weeks pregnant. He told her that if the baby came out alive, don't call the hospital. Some nurse in Virginia will save that baby's life. I will not resuscitate. I will take care of it here at the clinic. Killing children in the womb and outside the womb. That is what we're up against. And we need to know and we need to share this truth with as many people as possible. I want to show you one of these videos. There's an intro from Planned Parenthood. You'll see the role that they play in all of this. A little peek into the abortion industry, what is happening in our country.
It's just really hard for me to even ask you this question because I'm almost in disbelief. If a baby is born on a table as a result of a botched abortion, what would Planned Parenthood want to have happen to that child that's struggling for life? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, we believe that any decision that's made should be left up to the woman, her family, and the physician.
What happens in a situation where a baby is alive, breathing on a table, moving? What do your physicians do at that point?
You're recognized.
I do not have that information. I am not a physician. I'm not an abortion provider. So I do not have that information.
And did you understand exactly what the digoxin does? That's the injection that they give you. That's one of your forms that you filled out.
And it goes into my stomach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That stops the heartbeat?
Of the baby?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're okay with that?
I don't really have another choice, do I?
No, well you don't, but you could probably do it without the digoxin if you wanted to.
How?
Well, it just takes longer.
How do they do it then?
Huh?
How do they do it if they don't use it?
Well, they don't use the digoxin, they'll just suction the baby, and it's possible that there may be movement as they're taking out the fetus.
So if they use the suction, then there's possible movement when it comes out.
Yeah, and sometimes after...
Is it alive or?
Sometimes they are, yeah. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it will come out whole. Because they use suction, plus they use instruments, and sometimes the fetuses don't come out, that's not complete.
Okay.
So,
but if it does come out whole, I mean, will they resuscitate it? Like, will I have to take care of it? Okay. If that does happen, like if they do it, if I were to choose to do it that way, like, you would just let it go, right? Okay, so you would just let it die on its own if it was whole and breathing. Yes.
Then you would not resuscitate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just let it die on its own and, okay.
And the chances of it coming out with a heartbeat are kind of slim because, like I said, it's a procedure where they use instruments and suction, and it's most of the time they don't come out whole.
Okay. But if it does, then I don't have to worry about getting in trouble or taking a baby home.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I understand that you're not a physician, but you do represent physicians who do perform this activity. And can you tell me what happens when a baby is alive on the table? At that point, what do they do with the baby that is struggling to live?
You're recognized.
I don't know, and as it's been referenced earlier, we don't know even how prevalent this situation is.
We were in a meeting with an editor of a big New York paper, you may be able to guess which one, pitching these stories before the release of some of them. And this is during the heat of the very end of the Gosnell trial, and showing one after another, releasing these videos showing Gosnell is not alone. This is business as usual in the abortion industry. The gruesomeness, the inhumanity of the procedure itself, killing these children, and how they're willing to go as far as killing them if these children do survive these gruesome abortion attempts. And we're in this meeting with this editor, and we're sitting kind of in the side of the cafeteria in New York City, and we're telling him, describing him about the New York City abortion clinic in the Bronx, where the abortion worker said they would take the baby and put that baby in a jar of toxic solution, so it would basically drown or die that way if the baby came out alive. And the New York, this editor, his eyes kind of began to fill with tears. And he said, I'm sorry, he tried to collect himself. He said, I'm sorry, but it's just really hard to hear this. And this is not a conservative guy. This could be, maybe he's even pro-abortion. He said, but it's just hard to hear this because my wife and I just had a baby. And it's our first baby, and we've been trying for some years. We've been really wanting to have a baby, and we just had one for the first time. And he was moved, deeply moved by what we were sharing. And across the board, that's what we see, is that regardless of the political party that you're with, or whether you identify as liberal or conservative, regardless of all of the infusion of language and rhetoric, when you get down to it, when you cut down past that rhetoric, you show the truth for what it is, what abortion does, the descriptions from the abortionists themselves, what it does to a child, what it does to a baby, how this is not empowering to women but disempowering, scarring to women. This is not something that has helped women achieve their dreams and their goals, but has been another crush on the spirit of each woman, on the spirit of men, on the spirit of our country. And that's the hope in all of this, is that when we show the truth, and the media doesn't do the reporting, so we become the media. The media won't tell the truth, so we become the media to tell that truth. And the truth, a little bit of truth, goes a long, long way. It can defeat any lie. That's why we have the truth, and when we speak it in all the ways that we can speak it, we can defeat any lie. There are many lies being told out there, but we have a lot of great things on our side. We have the truth on our side. We have a generation that is hungry for change, true change. A generation hungry to have a nation that is one that life, not just the life of the unborn child, but they feel their life is respected and precious. They have a precious life too. That is the hunger of our nation, and the hunger that we want to respond to. So while we call on our legislators to say, shutting down the government is one thing, we need to shut down the abortion industry. We need to defund the abortion industry, take abortion out of Obamacare, out of any health care plan, as well as maybe shutting it down, that all down altogether. And we need to end all abortions in this country. Abortion should not be something that we allow, because the killing of the unborn child will rob the peace and the blessings I believe God wants to give our country. A lot of people have called us at Live Action brave and said, you're doing great work. But I want to tell you about a girl that inspires me, who I think is very brave, truly brave. Her name is Malala. You may have heard of her, from Pakistan. And she was recently, last year, she was shot in the head by the Taliban for her speaking out at 15 years old for the rights of school children, school girls particularly, to get an education. And she was with Jon Stewart, and Malala Yousafzai says this to Jon Stewart. He asks her, did you ever think the Taliban would come after you? Did you ever think that they would come after you, and what did you think you would do if they did? And the 16-year-old girl, she's now 16, she says, and she survived being shot in the head. She's telling her story. She says, you know, I started thinking about that, and I used to think that if the Talib would come and he would just kill me, and then I said, what if he comes? What would you do, Malala? Then I would reply to myself, well, Malala will take a shoe and I'll hit him. But then I said, if you hit a Talib with your shoe, then there is no difference between you and the Talib. You must not treat others with cruelty and harshness. You must fight others through peace. Then I said, I'll tell him how important education is and that I even want education for your children as well. Now do what you want. Malala is saying she would even want education for the Taliban's children. She's doing this for all people. And when we're doing this fight for the right to life, the most fundamental right for all children, we're not just fighting a partisan fight for the people on our side, whether they're conservatives or Republicans or whatever it may be. We're fighting for the future of everyone. We're fighting for Obama's daughters, President Obama's daughters, for his grandchildren. We're fighting for the grandchildren of Nancy Pelosi and the great-grandchildren. We're fighting for everyone because all of us, even Kermit Gosnell, so disfigured by the abuses that he's been doing for many years, now locked up in jail, are made in the image and likeness of God. And we make the radical statement that we will fight for all of them, no matter the conditions of their conception, no matter the vulnerability that they're in, no matter the circumstances. We will fight for their right to life. We will fight for everyone's right to life, no matter what. I truly believe that we will be successful because we have truth on our side. We have weapons that past generations didn't have. We have new media. Live Action Online, we have over almost 600,000 Facebook fans. We're bigger than Planned Parenthood online. And we have 0.01% of their budget. But that's because people want to connect with the truth. People want this truth, this idea, this radical idea that we're made in the image and likeness of God, that people should be protected, that we have human rights. That idea is attractive. The truth is attractive. We have the truth on our side. We have that willingness in our fight, in our hearts to never give up, to keep up the fight. And I believe because this is God's battle in the end, this is God's work in the end, under a just God, we will prevail. We can take back this country, and we will do it. Thanks so much.